Alright, everybody. So what you're about to hear, what you're going to hear is a precursor to the blog post about the Metal Goblin release. So we did start this before we knew everything that was posted in that Metal Goblin release blog post by Mantic, which also hinted at some plastic goblins. So we will be covering more about this later in future episodes, but right now I just want to let you guys know that this is before, or we started this before we knew about that, or that blog post showed up. So yeah. Alright, so this is our first main topic. This is different from what we usually do, because we usually only have one main topic per episode, but we thought that since we haven't done an episode in 2 months, we would combine it and make two main topics today. So our first main topic is essentially Mantic's current direction. Now, Mantic has demonstrated, and it's in their motto, big armies, big battles, that they love to do inexpensive armies, and lots of them.
Yeah.
Which was demonstrated at the first with the elves and the undead, where you could get, 20 skeletons for $20, and that was basically the idea at that point. Now, 3 years in, we've seen a lot more resin plastic, which is still plastic, but it's more. It's not on sprues.
Okay, hold on a sec, because I know it's not on sprues,
right?
But there is other differences.
Yeah. It's harder than. It's actually a little bit harder than hard plastic as far as the casting process goes, and so it can get a lot more detail.
Okay, so somebody decided to call hard plastic, and then they went out and made a harder plastic?
Yes.
That
essentially.
I think
now,
that person was a bit of a div, weren't they?
Yeah, it's... Plastics manufacturer has a lot of different points to it. I don't even know all of it, so I can't say... Now, I'm going from what I've heard. I may be completely wrong in the fact that resin is supposedly harder, or the plastic resin is supposedly harder than hard plastic.
Right.
But from what I can understand, it makes sense because resin plastic, it gets more detail, but then it's also more brittle. As far as thin weapons breaking easier and stuff like that. Now I can see that because if you take it, the example of say like a Japanese samurai sword,
yeah,
or something like a katana. It's the same type of thing because the metal. Now that's metal, but the same idea goes around because the harder metal is brittle, whereas the softer metal can hold an edge. So I kind of transpose that over into the plastics type of thing, where in my understanding of resin plastic, because it's like the resin plastic can hold a lot more detail.
Okay.
But it's also a bit brittle. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It does. So but in terms of the consumer, when it's being made, my understanding is, if you want to make hard plastic, you have to make a lot of hard plastic to make your money back. If you want to make...
Oh, most definitely. Hard plastic molds are made out of steel. And it's not like a rubber mold for a resin plastic figure. It's a full steel mold that has to be pressed together and then taken out. It's very economical in the fact that you can get a sprue out for, like, say, 15 cents or so, but the fact that
it's economical in the long run, in bulk, is basically what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
It will last a long time. But The problem is that it's like $10,000 or something to get a sprue even off the ground as far as tubing.
Yeah, no, I know that price varies. I've heard different prices, but that's not far off the mark.
Oh yeah, but it's a lot of money is what I'm trying to say.
Whereas the resin one, you can basically be a small scale miniature publisher. Yeah,
Which is actually a good example of that is Trollforged minis, because what Edward from Trollforged, all he does is resin plastic type of stuff, and he uses spin cast molds, and he's in his basement, and he does that. So, I mean, it's a very good example of where a small scale business, it's easier to do resin plastic than higher end hard plastic figures.
right.
Like the elves from Mantic are supposedly haven't made their money back yet in tooling costs. So.
Yeah, I think that specific point that, you know, the elves haven't made their tooling costs back that could be a kind of a double blow as to why Mantic has very little hard plastic coming out at the moment, because
right, yeah,
not only have they not made the money back that they expected, but they're also feeling less risky in terms of putting that much money into something. Now, I don't completely agree with this, but, you know, I can see that, you know, that they have definitely pulled back, and that they're definitely doing less hard plastic sprues.
Right, and I can see that because they're trying to get enough releases out there, but keeping the schedule momentum up while not having to...
Well, I would not say keeping the schedule momentum. I would say that they're still increasing it.
Yeah, no, they're increasing the momentum. It's just they're doing it with a different medium.
Right.
And I can see that because if the elves haven't made their startup costs back, the undead have been completely successful. I mean, the zombie sprues supposedly sold out within a week of their first casting.
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest.
No, exactly. And I love the zombie sprues. I've got over 100 already. I mean, they're great sprues, even though they have only a little bit of posability and such. But you gotta see that even with them making fantabulous amounts of success with the undead, it still might not, because Mantic doesn't publish their costs and everything, but it still might not have gotten back the sort of half failure of the elves.
Yeah.
Now, I only say half failure because I know they've been bought.
Yeah.
And I particularly think they've done okay. They haven't done amazing, but they've done okay. So, but I can see where people don't like them as far as the aesthetic goes.
Yeah, I think that they're a failure insofar as they should have made their money back by now.
Right, yes, exactly. 3 years in, they should have.
Because if I was in Mantic's situation, I'm guessing that they're including all the other overhead costs, not just the tooling costs.
Yeah.
But you'd want to have made your money back by now. So basically, personally, I don't think this is Mantic in a tight spot, necessarily.
No, I don't think they're in a tight spot at all. Now, they did...
But I do think that they've changed tack a little.
Yeah.
And I do think that that's increased costs a little bit.
I can agree with that. The only problem I see with the new direction that Mantic is taking...
See, I told you it was a good name.
Yeah, I know. So, the only problem I can see with the new direction that Mantic's taking is the fact that they could be losing their market brand, if you will, or recognition of that brand, because they were known for inexpensive, hard plastic sprues of toy soldiers. And they've sort of drawn off from doing that. I mean, the orcs only got, 2 or 3 sprues? And the...
2 or 3 hard plastic sprues is pretty good.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's good, but I'm just saying, as far as sprue components, consistency, everything else, the orcs and Forge Fathers from the Warpath release only got half of a plastic sprue. Now, granted, that was because they were trying to do two armies at once, and I applaud them for that.
Yeah.
But, a lot of people have looked to Mantic for inexpensive hard plastic sprues and toy soldiers.
Yeah.
And since Mantic has changed tack, we're not seeing that many of that anymore. And so people might be losing the recognition of Mantic as a toy soldier company. And
well, as a specifically cheap to buy company that kind of, and I think we're about to lead into the next point, but I see Mantic as the people you go to when you want an army,
Right, yeah. When I think of Mantic, I think of a horde of undead.
I don't care what race it is. But it's going to be a horde. I want to be able to buy 100 guys.
Since I'm an undead player, that's what I think of. But I can see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I mean that even shows up with what we're talking about as far as Mantic's new direction. They're going to be releasing metal goblins.
Yeah.
Now think about that. It's metal goblins. Not hard plastic.
Yeah, I think the internet has some words to say about that.
Oh yeah, it's almost like SOPA and PIPA have happened for Mantic.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, why are you doing this to us? We want our hordes of goblins.
I think there's some people who, genuinely think that their rights to Mantic as a horde army company are being infringed, and I'm not sure they're wrong.
No,
but go on.
Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's metal goblins. I mean, first of all, goblins, you need a horde of them, like we've been saying. And
yeah, I would say if I was making a goblin purchase, what would your minimum goblin purchase be, even if it wasn't just for an all goblin army?
Oh God! Don't even ask. 300 minis at minimum, because I mean, for if we're taking into the opinion of Games Workshop's goblins, as far as the rules for them, because I haven't played with the Kings of War goblin rules yet. You need at least 80 figs in a unit to get anywhere with goblins. I mean, you need a horde of them.
Well, even if it wasn't for a Warhammer army, if I was going to go out and get some goblins, there's two ways to do it. I literally want to buy 2 or 3 goblins for, Blood Bowl or whatever. Or I'm going to be buying 50 plus goblins.
Right.
There is no middle ground. I'm not going to buy 5. It's those 2 goblins are going to have to be very specifically sculpted for whatever purpose I want them for in, like a goblin on stilts or a goblin with pom-poms.
Right, yeah.
Or I'm buying 50 plus.
Right.
That's the only way that I see it happening. Yeah. And I think that's why people are upset.
I personally, I can see that Mantic is trying to do it as a tester of the waters for goblins.
Yeah, very much like the Revenant Cavalry and a few other, I believe there's one Elf Cavalry that never ended being rescued.
No, it's not the Elf Cavalry you're thinking of. It's the Palace Guard that are still metal, but people...
Yes.
Mantic said that they were going to turn them into plastic resin. They said they were going to turn the Abyssal Dwarves, some of them, into plastic resin, as far as I've heard.
I think that will still happen.
Yeah, I do too, because the Abyssal Dwarves were one of their best armies, as far as the interest went.
I just think that right now, Warpath is kind of...
Warpath is on the Warpath.
At the forefront. You're so funny.
Yeah, well, that's basically what it is. I mean, Warpath is taken.
Yeah. To be fair, I made the New Directions joke, so I can't say anything.
I know. But Warpath is on their radar. That's taking up most of the space. And while I can see them launching Warpath, they should keep some ideas in as far as getting hard plastic sprues out for the goblins.
Yeah,
I think they're needed. Because if you don't have hard plastic goblins, people aren't going to go to you because Well, I mean, except for specialty stuff.
Yeah, there are a couple of people who are happy with it, and I do not.
Oh, yeah, no, because some people love metal.
Yeah, and also, I don't think that this is a point where it will ruin Mantic in any way, because I think what people keep forgetting is that, you know what? When you make, my understanding anyway now, if I'm wrong, please correct me. When you make a bunch of metal goblins, you can just make, say, 500 to 1,000 goblins, which is nothing, you know.
Right.
And that can be a test release, and you can see how quickly it goes, or you can see how people react to the sculpts, and you can just see how it goes, basically.
Right.
It is not the end of anything. It's simply that everybody, you, me, and not everybody, but almost everybody just thinks, if the sculpts are half decent, we're going to be buying we want to buy them in plastic right off the bat.
Exactly.
And we do not want to buy them in metal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the problem is that with Mantic not releasing them in hard plastic, they're going to lose people who thought they were going to be in hard plastic from the time that Mantic said we're going to be making goblins.
I disagree, actually.
You think?
Yeah, I think that people, like, okay, right. I don't know how to give a good example of this, but maybe going back to the Sopa Pipa thing.
Okay.
Which, if anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, then what the hell are you doing on the internet? But basically, with that, people keep going on about how angry they are that certain companies or whatever, are supporting SOPA.
Right.
And then they say, I'm not gonna support these guys no matter what. And then the people say, and then the company, in most cases, has withdrawn their support of SOPA. And the people have gone back to being okay with the company, as long as they know that this is legit.
Right.
And I think it's the same. It's like, you know, Mantic has done what a lot of people think is a misstep. But while some people may right now be very upset or may think that Mantic have gone off the bandwagon or whatever,
well,
in 5 or 6 months, these people still won't have a good hard plastic goblin set to buy if there isn't one out right now. So if in 6 months down the road, Mantic then say, well, actually, you know, that was a test. Here we go. Those people will still end up buying it.
Oh, no, yeah,
They're not going to boycott it.
I can see that. But, I just... To make a situation worse from what it is, the whole thing about the metal goblins may compound the bad press that the Warpath release got, as far as people expecting something and not getting it.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. My understanding of what you're saying there is that a lot of people are upset because it's like a downward spiral.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't see it that way, but that's just me as a fan of Warpath.
Yeah.
I love what I've seen so far in. Sorry. Well, I think I just got ill in the head for a second.
Yeah, that's okay. You're sick. I can understand that.
Yeah. I love what I've seen so far in the corporation, and this might surprise people, I'm very okay with that price.
Oh,
I really do not mind that price.
I do too. I can see buying one of the mega armies for corporation, because it's what, 148 pounds for, or 150
pounds
for 148 figures.
Exactly. Now,
Right.
I don't know if that includes vehicles, but if it does, that's unbelievably good.
No,
and if it doesn't,
it doesn't. It's all infantry. But what it does contain...
If it doesn't, I don't care, because that's still good.
What it does contain is 15 heavy weapon
nice.
troops, or
Nice.
guys, or whatever. So, 15. I mean,
Yeah.
you get, what, 2 in the GWIG battalion?
2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
And so if you buy the equivalent of 2... Yeah, I mean, okay... I think it's different. It's difficult to compare it to the battalion as a whole because there's tanks and sentinels in that. But
Right.
in terms of price, the battalion is as cheap as you're going to get your Imperial Guard. And from what I've seen of the sculpts are better. The price is much better.
Right.
The aesthetic is down my street more. Like whenever I saw, okay, well, Catachan jungle fighters are a bit of a joke. Sorry.
No, they are.
But
they are.
Cadians, are nice, but, they kind of, they're missing a little something. And they're very nice. And then there's Elysians, which I like but don't have enough armor. It just so happened that what they made was exactly what I wanted.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I think the price point is fine. People say, oh, well, it is technically more expensive. And it's, well, yes, there's a little bit more detail, though. And, you know, I would rather they have the Warpath stuff a little bit more expensive, even though I'm going to buy more of it, than the Warhammer stuff. Because when I buy Warhammer, I need to buy by the 50s and by the 100s. And when I buy Warpath, I buy by the 20s and the 30s.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
so it's still making a very affordable army.
Right.
And in that way, and they've basically not had a downward spiral. They've had an increase in costs, which I feel has actually taken a step back once the quality and everything else about the corporation came out.
Right.
And then they had a blip with the metal goblins.
Right.
I don't see it as a downward spiral at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I reserve my right to change my opinion, but I really don't see it.
Yeah. Okay. I get your point. But moving on.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, we've got the release schedule in general.
Yeah.
Which is actually quite interesting, because like we were talking about earlier, they've got a lot of momentum. They've got Corporation coming. They've got Twilightkin that we've seen before.
Yeah.
They're releasing the rest of the kits for them. They've got, apparently, the Iron Ancestor for the Forge Fathers.
Oh, yeah!
We got Dracarim, which are the metal bits. And speaking of which, Dracarim and conversion set for...
Have you seen it?
Regular Forge Fathers.
Have you seen the... it's up on the website. It's not actually... There's no pictures?
Yes, I saw the conversion bits. They actually... It makes every single heavy weapon option for Forge Fathers as a viable product, which is amazing. So
it is brilliant, because if I have somebody who comes in and, you know, buys some, like in my club, comes in, gets some Forge Fathers, and is like, oh, but I wanted to have this and I want to have that.
Right.
It's your bit service. And yeah, that's it, basically.
Yeah, and you know what? I want them to expand it. I want them to not just stop at this Dracarim. I want them to put out the Abyssal Dwarves stuff as bits, packs. I want to see...
Yeah.
Oh god, what are they?
Twilightkin?
Yeah, Twilightkin as bits packs as well, for those with a bunch of elves.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a lot of this stuff get put into bits packs.
I think that if they do
this... Because I think it would sell.
Yeah, I really do think it will. And I think that people need to support it, because, like, having been someone who went to Warhammer World about... Oh my god, this is embarrassing.
Long time ago.
Oh no, it's 10 years ago. Yeah, it's 9 or 10 years ago. Jeez. 9 or 10 years ago when I was in university. How old am I? So yeah, about 9 or 10 years ago, my first year of uni, I went to a tournament at Warhammer World, and I went in and I went nuts with the bit service. And honestly, it was the biggest purchase I ever made with Games Workshop in one go.
What was it?
It was whatever I wanted.
Right.
I bought the left leg of the old Warhammer Giant.
Okay.
This is well before the current Giant kit, because I was.
But it was all mostly bits and stuff.
It was bits and pieces from this place, that place, and the other. I bought backpack sprues. I bought Chaos Warrior sprues, weapon sprues, and shield sprues.
Right.
Which I'm now using in my undead army as some of the shields. It looks fantastic. I've got amazing like Warhammer things. I mean, literally Warhammers, not the game. All kinds of things. And it was the one time when I went out and I intended on just getting what I needed, and I got what I wanted.
Right.
And I very rarely do that. I'm normally a conservative buyer, and I bought all this stuff that I wanted, and for years, up until today, I'm still using those bits packs because it was just every cool little piece that I wanted, and I bought it. And imagine someone goes into Mantic Games or Mantic, whatever it's called now, down in Nottingham, and can just pick through whatever they want.
Oh, exactly. Like they go see, just have it,
or add it into their order.
Exactly.
It's just
exactly.
Yeah, and that was yeah.
I mean, it's just with Mantic's open arms policy towards their customers. I could see bits, as far as a bit service, selling extremely well and keeping Bernard busy for years.
I have no idea who Bernard is, but yes, I totally...
They're caster.
Okay, right. Okay.
If you've watched the videos that they put up, you'll see.
Okay. I must have missed that, yeah. The other thing... The point I wanted to make about the release schedule in general is that I believe it was a poster, either Darskzal or Scarlet Squig, and I wish I could remember which one of them, posted a breakdown of what armies have been released in the past years for Mantic. And
oh, geez, I think it was Scarlet Squig on the best of Mantic 2011.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said that essentially every year they have doubled their releases, except for 2012, where in 2011 they did 4 releases. And this year so far, 4 releases are announced, and we're not even a month in.
Right.
So it seems that they're trying to double their production all the time. And I think that this feeds in a lot to the very little hard plastic and the worry about metal goblins and all these kinds of things. And it's a huge counterpoint for naysayers and worriers in that maybe Mantic are doing this so that people who want to exclusively buy Mantic feel that they can do so.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the best idea. I think they'd be better off saying, look, buy from these guys until we're ready. But I'm not a businessman, so maybe it's not the best idea. But I do think that there's definitely a legitimate reason for what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's just that, there's still mistakes in there,
Good points, good points. So, that's basically what we're thinking about as far as the release schedule.
Yeah. There was one last there was one last thing, I promise.
Go ahead.
I think if they do more than 6 releases in a year, they're going to completely overstretch themselves, and I think that they'll actually lose out in a big way because they will not adequately cover things, and it'll be rushed.
Okay, wait.
That's my summary of this entire section.
Is what you're saying is that if they do more than 6 big releases this year, they're going to lose out on people or something?
Yeah, because they will not be able to focus in on having the right number of hard plastic releases, having the right support and focus. And I think that, I know they want to cover their ranges and be fully supported in every range. But at the same time, it took most other wargaming countries, years to do this. They don't need to do it in 3 years or 4 years.
Oh, exactly. They don't, but they want... I can understand that they want to keep growing and stuff, But you're right; they have to take it in moderation.
Yeah, Games Workshop, in a lot of people's opinions, has overextended itself.
Exactly.
In terms of its shops. You know?
I mean, if you look at everything that they've been doing versus everything that Mantic's been doing, it's just... It's a very crazy situation right now in the wargaming industry, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anywho...
yeah.
we were...
I think that...
Yeah, I think that covers what we were trying to say.
Yeah.
Other than that, did you want to take a break and then we'll come back for the second main topic?
I do want to take a break. I will, I'll freshen up, or whatever the ladies call it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. We will be back in a couple minutes or seconds.
Okay.
Whatever it takes to freshen
All right.
up.